We are back and we are live. Yes, it is WrestleMania Night 1. It has just wrapped up at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Night 1 of the two-night extravaganza in Philly. And a bit of an interesting one, actually, Night 1. Really interested to know what you guys think. Really want to get involved with you guys in the comments about this, because I feel like we've got a lot to discuss about WrestleMania, indeed. The big headline, of course, is that we are getting, in the main event of WrestleMania Night 2, we're, of course, still getting that undisputed WWE Universal Championship clash, because Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble. He chose to face off against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and it means that he's going to get that title shot regardless. But now things have changed, because The Rock has pinned the American Nightmare in the middle of the ring, and that means the Bloodline were victorious, and it means we are going to be getting Bloodline rules in the main event of WrestleMania Night 2. So, I guess overall thoughts about the show as people start to file in. Click the like button, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. My overall sort of feeling, I suppose, on the show would be strong start, and then really, until, shall we say, the Intercontinental Championship, a very sort of nothing, empty, cold in many ways show. They kept talking about, the temperature and how cold it was at Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia. They kept talking about the conditions. And it felt like at points that the crowd was really struggling, maybe because of that. Maybe they were struggling because, whenever it's a stadium show and it's outdoors, the sound travels differently as well. So you have to sort of consider that. But it did feel like certain matches were just very cold, didn't it? Certain matches were very cold. The crowd was into certain stuff, but other stuff it really didn't care about at all. And what it really didn't care about, as I said, was kind of that middle cluster of the show, sort of even really as part of the tag team ladder match, parts of it they didn't care about. The Rey match, they didn't care about. I think if you're going to look at the biggest flop of the evening, I think you would probably look at Jimmy and Jey Uso as the biggest flop of the evening in terms of a match that it's got a year's worth of build-up, doesn't it? Jimmy and Jey Uso, brother versus brother, part of the Bloodline storyline, and people did not care about it in the slightest. I mean, at all. They didn't care about it at all, did they? And it really did not work. As I said, crowd came a bit more alive for the Intercontinental Championship match, title change, historic moment, and then you get the main event, which, to be honest, probably had the finish I think most people would have expected. I mean, if you had to consider all of the different finishes that you thought was going to happen for this evening's show, the Rock and Reigns winning, I think, is the one probably that makes the most sense. Because had the Rock and Roman Reigns lost, you then go in tomorrow and go, okay, no, Bloodline are banned from ringside. So I suppose you could have gone into it with like, oh, so Cody's definitely going to win then because the Bloodline are banned. But I mentioned it at the end of the watch along, and I'm interested to know if you guys agree with me on this, is I viewed this evening as, or particularly the main event, and let's be completely transparent here. This entire premium live event, night 1 and night 2, it's centered around the Bloodline story and Cody and The Rock. Like that's what this show is. Everything else is just filler. There are some interesting side plots and some interesting understories, but this show is The Rock, Roman Reigns, and Cody Rhodes. I mean, even Seth Rollins, you could argue, is not really, he's there because they needed a fourth body. The show, across this weekend, the show on Raw and SmackDown has been The Rock, Roman Reigns, Cody. And to be honest, it's been The Rock, Cody, Reigns in that order of importance and getting people talking. So I suppose in that sense, we shouldn't be surprised when nothing else really feels that important on the show, because we've been conditioned over the last 3 or 4 months to think that the only thing important, the biggest thing in WWE right now is the story with The Rock, Cody, and Reigns. Therefore, everything else doesn't matter. And that's what it kind of felt like, wasn't it, in this show, that everything else was just filler, garnish, but the main course was your main event. And it does feel like it's Infinity War. What happens at the end of Infinity War? What happens is the big conquering final boss in Thanos wins. And we're not used to that. Because in the Marvel film, what you set up to what always happens. What happens in a Marvel film is there's this big bad villain. Maybe he knocks the good guy down, but at the end of the film, the good guy wins, and they go, right, we go on to the next one, next film. What happened in Infinity War is they lost. They lost for the first time. They lost, and the film ended, and the audience went, shit. Like, what happens now? The good guys never lose, and now the good guys are in even more trouble. And what happens in Endgame? They have to figure out a plan to beat the final boss, even though the odds are stacked even more against them. Because in Infinity War, yes, they were going up against a strong challenge in Thanos and his army, but they had everyone. They weren't completely united at the time. They weren't completely on the same page, but they were together. They were the Avengers, and they're going to win. And then when they lost, not only did they lose, but they were separated, and half of the people go away, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what it's kind of like now, isn't it? You lost, and now the odds are even more stacked against you. What do you do? How do you fix it? How do you overcome that? And I think, to be honest, realistically, you could argue that this outcome tonight actually almost probably confirms that Cody's going to probably win tomorrow and finish the story. Because you don't have, let's face it, if Cody Rhodes, he got pinned in the middle of the ring tonight. Not by Roman Reigns, but by The Rock. He got pinned flat bang in the middle. Rock bottom, people's elbow. Or spear, rock bottom, people's elbow. Yes, he was whipped. And yes, The Rock, he kind of threatened to fire the official. But he pinned him in the middle of the ring. If Cody Rhodes is their big megastar, their top babyface, they are not having him lose back-to-back nights in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania. They're just not. So I would almost look at it as actually this is even more confirmation that Cody Rhodes is winning tomorrow. Cody Rhodes, I think now, will leave Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia with the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. He has to. Because if he gets pinned tomorrow, then that is 3 WrestleMania main events in a row. WrestleMania 39, WrestleMania 40 Night 1, and WrestleMania 40 Night 2 that he would have lost. And I know you can get over by losing, and I know that sometimes it's about losing, but you've got to win eventually. You have to. So I think it says to me that Cody Rhodes wins tomorrow, and I think on top of that, it says to me that this overbooked mess that I think fans are hoping for, the end game scenario, which is, anything goes, anyone can interfere. The key word, anyone. Anyone can interfere tomorrow. So that is, yes, The Rock can interfere. Yes, Solo Sikoa can interfere. Yes, Jimmy Uso can interfere. But Jey Uso could interfere. Seth Rollins could interfere. John Cena could interfere. Stone Cold Steve Austin could interfere. The Undertaker could interfere. Think of the Triple H could interfere. I mean, they could do anything. What it does, this finish, is open up the creative doors, doesn't it? Of legitimately, whatever you think could happen tomorrow is possible. So, with that being said, that really, the only thing for sure maybe is the finish that Cody wins, but how we get there is completely up to interpretation. And I think that's a good thing. I think going into night 2, we want to have the entire possibilities. We want to have everything be on the table, and everything certainly is on the table. The one thing that I think maybe is off the table is maybe the idea of The Rock turning on Roman Reigns. And, for a while there was this theory that he's a double agent because when he does the point, he's doing this and what have you. That picture right there does not scream double agent to me. That right there does not scream that The Rock's going to turn on Roman Reigns and become a babyface. I mean, maybe if Roman loses and something like that, then and he snaps at The Rock, then I suppose maybe that could happen. But I don't see Roman screwing The Rock screwing Roman rather, so Cody wins the title. Because I think the final boss character is working too much. I think the final boss character is catching on too well to an extent. It's become so popular, and it's the best work he's done in a WWE setting anyway in, 20 years, legitimately. So why mess with something that isn't broken? Why try and fix something that isn't broken? So I don't think The Rock turns. I don't think he betrays Roman. I could see maybe Roman turning babyface tomorrow. I could maybe see that. You're meant to be the tribal chief. You're meant to be the head of the table. You lost. You let us down. So I'm the final boss. I'm your boss. I punish you. And then Roman goes on hiatus. So does The Rock. But they then set up WrestleMania next year. WrestleMania next year is the final boss, The Rock, the heel, versus Roman Reigns, babyface Roman Reigns. And maybe they go after that People's Championship, the one that The Rock's holding there. They can turn that into something, perhaps. And also, if Cody does win the Undisputed Universal Championship, by the way, Rock's pinned the champion. So don't think that one disappears either, because The Rock versus Cody in a singles match is firmly on the table. You don't think that they're going to forget that The Rock has pinned Cody Rhodes. I doubt that's going to happen. So that's kind of the show overall. We'll get into the matches individually, but be sure to smash a like on the like button, by the way, guys. We got 126 people watching, which is great for this channel. We're a small channel. We're growing. We're evolving. We do daily wrestling news videos. One that goes up at midday UK time, which is like 7 a.m. Eastern in the US. Then another video that goes up around sort of 3, 4 o'clock over here in the UK, which is about sort of... it goes up at, 8 and 9, which is 3, 4 o'clock in the US time zones, which is fun, especially to try and figure out at 4:30 in the morning. But yeah, so if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. We're actually, there you go, right there. We're 20 subscribers away from 17,200. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Click the like button too. Let's see if we can get up to 50 likes. Let's get into the matches on the show, though. The show kicked off with the Women's World Championship match with Rhea Ripley defeating the man Becky Lynch. Now, they always say, don't they? They always say in any show, really, but particularly WrestleMania, if you're not going to go on last, where do you want to go? You want to go on first. That's where you want to go on. You want to go on first. By the way, that's not Rhea Ripley. That's the person singing her to the ring. I thought it was. Tell me that doesn't look like Rhea Ripley. When that guy was singing it, I went, what? I went, I've heard it's Rhea Ripley. And then she came out and went, oh, no, it's not. It was like looking into a mirror. I expect them to start going like this and mirroring each other. Going like that. I was like, what? But yes, Rhea got a live intro, a live play to the ring. And I thought this was fantastic opener. I really, really did. Rhea Ripley continues to, I think, establish herself as, I think she's generational. I really, really do. I think she's absolutely spectacular. I think she is the full package. I think very few people are close to her level. And I think that people, whilst they try and, put her down, or they try and say that her abilities aren't up to the level, they absolutely are with Rhea Ripley. I mean, she is, you could have argued maybe a few years ago her promos weren't great. I think her promos have improved immensely. I think her in-ring work, I can't think of many people that can touch her in terms of in-ring work. I'd probably say Charlotte Flair. I'd probably say like a Bianca Belair, maybe, in terms of people that just have that extra great gear. Everything looks good. The sell's good. The strength's good. The pace good. Doesn't move in slow motion. Doesn't move at that half speed, which I hate. I just think she's fantastic. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And they had a great match. My prediction going into it was that Rhea would retain, because I just didn't see the point of Becky Lynch really winning, because I think sometimes in these big Mania matches, you have to kind of sometimes consider, don't you, like, what's the most important, what's the most important, well, who needs it more? Put it that way. That's the best question, isn't it? Who needs it more? And a lot of the time, the answer to that is, I think, should be the finish. Becky Lynch didn't need to win this match. Becky Lynch, she's a made man. She's won the WrestleMania main event. She's won title matches at WrestleMania. She doesn't need it. Rhea Ripley, she won the title last year at WrestleMania, but just because she did doesn't mean that she should drop it immediately, a year later. If there's still, and I think you have seen that with Triple H's booking philosophy, is that he's not in a rush to do things. And he doesn't do them for the sake of doing them. If it doesn't feel right,
then he won't do it. He won't be like, well, she's held it for a year, so we're just going to take it off her because she's had it for a year. No, if she doesn't need to, if we still feel there's more in this, we'll keep going. Look at Roman Reigns. Look at Roman Reigns last year. To this day, still people are convinced, aren't they, that Reigns, he should have dropped the title last year. It was a bad move. Should have dropped the title. Cody should have had the championship all year. And to be honest, I was kind of, in that category last year. But then you look at the ticket sales, you look at the ratings, particularly for the Bloodline segments that they have done. And I've not even been the biggest fan of some of the Bloodline stuff over the last year or so. Some of it I think's made no sense. And some of the matches haven't been that great either. But you look at them doing a tribal court segment from SmackDown in MSG last summer, doing like 3 million viewers. It worked. It worked. You look at the hype for this year's WrestleMania and this year's Cody finished the story. It's because they played the long game of that, and they were right to. And I think that's what they're doing here with Rhea Ripley. Now's not the right time for her to drop the championship. She's still got plenty of time and plenty of places to go. I think the only thing you probably could say about Rhea, and we have seen this over the last year with her, is just you then get into the territory of, well, at some point you'll have to drop it, and who's that going to be? Like who realistically is the one to take the title off her? Because then at some point it gets really important, doesn't it? At some point, it gets really, really important. You're like, well, someone's going to have to beat her at some point. So who is that someone kind of going to be? You know what I mean? And maybe they're not there yet. Maybe they'll wait and see. It's a bit like Roman, isn't it? For Roman, for the last couple of years, that's been the question. Who's going to be the one to defeat him? And for a while, before Cody really emerged, it was a bit difficult, wasn't it? Well, I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. And then I suppose the correct answer is you'll know it when you see it. And that's the right thing to do with some of these long reigns. Steffi Jenkins says, Jenkins, sound like flex. Tiffany Stratton, Steffi says, Dakota Kai, Red Devils, 99 says as well. What else are people saying here in the chat? Fat Thor says, Mammy is such a nice person in her interviews. She's always on top. Bianca is stagnant. I do think they're going towards Rhea versus Bianca at some point, but I don't even think Bianca's the right person to beat Rhea. I wouldn't say that's the right call either. I don't think. I think it should be an emerging person. Again, we'll have to wait and see who it is. Maybe it's Jade. Not right now. I think Jade would need another year at the very least. And we'll get to her performance later on. But, maybe we'll know when we see it. Maybe we'll know it when we see it. We've got nearly 140 people watching, which is great. If you haven't already, click the like button. We're one like away from 50. And we are, 18 subscribers away from 17,200. So if you haven't already subscribed, you know what to do. Click the bottom right-hand corner. There should be a subscribe thing or whatever there. And enjoy. Let's move on to the tag team title ladder match. Now, and actually, by the way, when it comes to this, just to finish off, I thought it was a very good opener for the show. My rating out of 10, I think at the time was 7, something like that. Very good opener for the show. Crowd was into it, and Ripley gets the win with the Riptide on Becky, and it was excellent. Next match was the tag team title ladder match, 6-pack challenge. It became very obvious what they were going to do in this one because Michael Cole mentioned it on Raw, didn't he? That both sets of championships were going to be held above the ring, and the only way to win was by securing both sets of championships. And they were suspended sort of suspiciously far apart, shall we say. So it was very obvious that these undisputed tag team championships were about to be split up into Raw tag team championships and SmackDown tag team championships. So we had a lot of crazy spots in the match, as you would expect. It's a ladder match. It's WrestleMania. Everyone wants to get their shit in. And we got new champions for both brands. On the SmackDown side of things, we have new SmackDown Tag Team Champions in A-Town Down Under. And on the Raw side of things, we have brand new Tag Team Champions in The Awesome Truth. Now, as far as ladder matches go, it was
it wasn't a classic WrestleMania ladder matches. There have been far superior ladder matches at WrestleMania. And I do think whilst this was a smart way to split the titles, which I think is what they've wanted to do for a while. Triple H has also said there's a draft coming up in the next month or so. Not that the brand split means anything in WWE, because every year they try and pretend that it does. It doesn't. It's very, very loose, isn't it? I mean, you're assigned to Raw and SmackDown, but you can kind of show up on whatever show if you want. It's like it's no big deal. They've even stopped trying to explain it. You remember like Paul Heyman, when one week he showed up on Raw and he had like a visitor pass or something like that. And then a week later, they were like, oh, who gives a shit about your visitor pass? Just show up. It doesn't really matter. I think with it will come new tag team title designs. By all accounts, there have been new belts made for, I want to say like 6 months. There have been rumors of new tag team titles designs. So they're on the way. We'll be getting new designs of tag titles. Hopefully they're different. I don't want the same designs but with different color straps. Like I liked back in the day, the World Tag Team Championships on Raw looked a certain way and the WWE Tag Team Championships on SmackDown looked a different way. Like I like that. I like difference. And with the tag team titles, I mean, I get it with the WWE Championship. It's like, oh, we need to have a big WWE logo on it because we want to give it to football teams and give it to celebrities and it advertises us. Like, I get that. But you don't have to do that with the tag team titles. You can at least be a bit more creative. So hopefully they do that. But so it was a novel way of splitting up the titles, which they've wanted to do for a while. I would say probably, I guess, my criticism of it was the one that you would expect it to be going into it. If you have 6 tag teams, I mean, it's one thing to have 6 people. You know, when they had those Money in the Bank ladder matches at WWE WrestleManias in the past, and 6 people, and you go, that's a lot of people. And then at some point it turned into 8 people, and you go, that's a lot of people. That kind of turns into a bit of a cluster. You got 6 tag teams. So you've got 12 people in this match. And then also, by the way, people interfered. So Jade McDonough, make that 13 people. What happens? It turned into a bit of a cluster at certain points. And then you're also dealing with the added superstar, which is the ladders. You don't know what the ladders are going to do. In fact, at one point, as we're kind of factoring into the finish, you had Damian Priest set to climb a ladder, and very audibly, the referee at ringside starts shouting to Damian Priest, get rid of the ladder, get rid of the ladder, get a different ladder. Priest either doesn't hear her or ignores her and starts climbing or attempting to climb the ladder. She grabbed his foot at one point and was like, hey, don't climb the ladder. And Priest essentially turned around and went, go away. I'm going to still climb this stupid ladder. And the moment he started climbing the ladder, you can see why she's having a go at him, because one of the leg of the ladder is completely screwed. So it's a safety thing. If you're going to climb this ladder, you could get hurt. At the very least, you're going to botch the spot. Lo and behold, what happened? They botched the spot. Miz was meant to be on the other side. They would kind of do something coming off of it. It didn't really work. And that's what happens when you're not listening to the people that can see. Listen to the referee, because she's not just doing it off the top of her head. She's got an earpiece in. She's being told by people in Gorilla, by Triple H, by someone else, like, don't use that ladder, because if you do, someone might get hurt or you'll blow the spot. And the spot clearly was feeding into the finish, because they're meant to do this thing with The Miz. Then R-Truth throws Damian Priest out the ring. Then he climbs up and grabs the titles. And then because that happened, it got a bit clunky and they had to do the thing and he sort of AA outside the ring. And it was just like, oh, I mean, it didn't take away from the moment because people were happy. R-Truth gets the win. He gets his WrestleMania moment. He's never won at WrestleMania, so that's cool. But I think that kind of just encapsulated the match. There were some like fun spots in there, some dangerous spots. Jade McDonough goes through a table on the outside of the ring, which even that, I think they had to be very careful with because the ladder was actually quite far away. And usually you would just sort of tip it. And it looked like the New Day were thinking about lifting and tipping. And you could see loudly, go back and watch it, Jade McDonough is screaming at Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, just tip it, don't lift it, just tip it. And thankfully they do that. But that was kind of the thing with the whole match. Grayson Waller took a bump through a ladder. Pete Dunne took a nice DDT through a table too. But it was just a bit.
It's not a classic ladder match by any stretch of the imagination, but they achieved what they wanted. They split up the tag team titles, and now it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Judgment Day. Of course, Damian Priest still has that Money in the Bank briefcase. He has till July 1st to cash it in. He's not going to be involved in the Undisputed Universal Championship match tomorrow. Could he be involved in the World Heavyweight title match? I mean, it's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I think at this point with Damian Priest, in all honesty, I think it's more close that he cashes in on a mid-card title. We saw Austin Theory try and do it, cash in on a US Championship. As a US Championship triple threat match tomorrow, would I be stunned if Damian Priest cashed in that one? Honestly, I wouldn't. And I know that's kind of lame whenever anyone cashes in on a mid-card title, because it's like, oh, you've got a shot at a world title, why wouldn't you go after it? But I honestly wouldn't be shocked at this point, because it wouldn't fit, I don't think, really. And I think people want to see Drew win it tomorrow. Unless Drew leaves and he doesn't put pen to paper on a new contract and they're like, well, we want to get the belt off Seth, so we'll have to give it to Damian Priest. And maybe it's like turnabout's fair play. Rollins is arguably his most famous moment in WWE as the heist of the century, cashing in the Money in the Bank. Like, what if something similar happened to him at WrestleMania? I guess that's kind of like poetry, isn't it? You know, something that similar that happens to Seth. Maybe that's what they do. I think maybe they could do that, perhaps. But I don't know. I don't know what happens with Damian Priest now. I really, really don't. But we have new tag team champions on both Raw and SmackDown, with the Awesome Truth being the Raw champions and A-Town Down Under being the SmackDown tag team champions. We've got 160 people watching, by the way, guys. 63 likes. Let's see if we can get that to 100, which is 36 likes to go. We're also 16 subscribers away from 17,200 as well. A couple of people, let's see what people are saying in the chat at the moment. Dr. Spoculus says, I love it. Playing up The Rock's business pull and making Cody work from an impossible underdog position on night 2. Fat Thor says, the Raw titles look classic. SmackDown titles look corporate. Stick to that concept then. Red Devils 99 said, this match made me nervous. That someone would get injured, especially the Jessica Carr situation. It was a bit, nervy. That. I tell you what did make me nervy, by the way, the whole night. What was going on with that ring? Every time someone hit the ropes, particularly on the side facing the announcers, the thing shook. I mean, the thing literally wobbled. And I don't know if this is like a new thing, because I saw it happen with Bron Breakker at Stand and Deliver, but he hits the ropes hard and he runs really fast. This thing was every time you just hit the ropes, it went like that. Like, it was crazy. I was worried at one point, the ring's just going to collapse. What's going on? So I'd love to know if there was anything going on with that ring that night. Lil Yo-Yo says, cashing on Drew, Raw after WrestleMania. Red Devils 99 says, Owen Theory cashed in United States Championship because Roman never showed up, which is true, but they've established that that's possible, isn't it? Once you establish that's a reality, then it is something they could go to. To be honest, I think the Money in the Bank concept, I don't think they've booked a good Money in the Bank briefcase holder in quite some time. I mean, go back through sort of the recent people that have held it, particularly on the men's side of things. I mean, who are the last people that have held it? You had, obviously, Priest, which you could argue it's done nothing for him. Austin Theory did nothing for him. Then before that was Big E. To be fair, he won the WWE Championship, but his run was terrible. That's not his fault. It was just booked terribly, and it was very quick, wasn't it? It dropped it very fast. Before that, it was Otis, who didn't even cash it in. He lost it to The Miz, and who then held it for 2 weeks. I mean, and before that was Brock, when he just showed up at the end of the match and took it off Mustafa Ali. I mean, legitimately, they haven't had a good. And before that, it was Braun Strowman, and he didn't cash it in successfully. He lost it. I mean, again, they haven't done it well for a long time. Think about it. I mean, they've been a bit better on the women's side of thing, but even with the women's side of thing, they tend just to cash it in the same night most of the time. It's it's wild. They're booking up. They haven't figured that one out for quite some time, have they? Or they can't get back up to the high levels that it once was for the Money in the Bank briefcase. Now, next, this is when really I think the show. From that ladder match, I felt like the show was on the way down, didn't it? It felt like the show's kind of taken a bit of a bit of a sting here. And then we get into this match here, and that really started to feel like it, to be honest, didn't it? Really started to feel like things were slowing down, or at least the crowd was just a bit more like, we're not really into this at the moment. Yeah, this one for me, I didn't really get it. I thought the way they were describing and building up this story. Oh, have I got? No, I'm good. The way they were describing this story is they were like, oh, it's based on betrayal. Based on betrayal. Dominik betrayed his father. Santos Escobar betrayed Rey Mysterio. Dragon Lee was meant to be teaming up with Rey Mysterio, but he got taken out by someone. So instead, he's teaming up with Andrade. And I thought, well, this one's clearly set up for Carlito to turn on Rey Mysterio. I mean, that's the whole story here. People turn on Rey. People are turning on everyone, stabbing each other in the back. Carlito's going to turn on Rey, and that's going to be what happens here. And in reality, like, nothing happened. And I'm not even like putting down the match because the finish that I predicted didn't happen. But the finish that did happen was just completely bizarre. Like, the finish was that Dom's on the outside of the ring and two giant luchadors or people in Rey Mysterio masks attack him. And then it turns out that they're NFL players that used to play for the Philadelphia Eagles. There you go. And it got a pop from the crowd. And they went, see? He recruited NFL players. And Rey Mysterio and the LWO win. And it was like, okay. So what are we doing? And it was like, oh, there you go. Betrayal. And for all... I've got so many questions coming out of it. One, what was last night all about then? I mean, unless Dragon Lee is legitimately injured, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe Dragon Lee is legitimately injured and he was pulled from the match. That's really unfortunate. If not, did they do it just for a red herring? Did they just go, actually, we've decided we want Andrade in it? That whole thing of like Carlito coming in, was that a red herring? Or eventually, is it going to be revealed that Carlito attacked Dragon Lee? If that is the case, why did he do nothing then on WrestleMania? Like, it was just bizarre. And think about this too. It's not as if like this match hasn't been built up for a while over time. The Santos Escobar, Rey Mysterio thing, that's got like over a year's worth of build. I mean, the LWO was established, right before WrestleMania last year? And then Santos turning on Rey, that happened in, October time-ish of last year. And then Rey took time off and then gets surgery and he comes back and they have the match on SmackDown, which Santos wins because Dominik gets involved. But Dom and his father, like, they did a thing again. But there was no real crossover. There was no like massive, this is personal, like nothing got resolved in this. So I looked at this match and went, okay, the crowd at this point were really flat. And to be honest, for the next 3 matches, they were quiet. The most, I guess, exciting thing that was happening in the crowd was that Michael Cole, around this time of the show, decided to put on a hat. And Corey Graves started to wear gloves. And I think that got a reaction from people watching. But that was about it. And that's why I say that it did feel like, for a large chunk of this show, for the majority of it really, that this was all just filler until we got to the bloodline. This is all filler until we got to The Rock, Roman Reigns, and Cody. This is all just, we've got to put a show on, so we've got to have some matches, but that's not what we bought a ticket for. It's not the reason we're tuning in. We're tuning in for the main event. That's all we really care about. And in fairness, you could argue that has been the case on episodes of Raw or SmackDown for quite some time, isn't it? When we're coming out of recent episodes of Raw and SmackDown and people are praising them or they're saying that they really enjoyed them, are they saying that they really enjoyed the whole show? Or are they talking about, I tell you what, Raw was great last night. Raw was fantastic. What happened? Well, The Rock came out and he confronted Cody. And then He said something and no one knew what he said. And then at the end of the show, he fought him and he made him bleed in the parking lot. It was fantastic. What a show. And then you go, okay, so what else happened on the show? You go, I think there was like a Punk segment with McIntyre and Rollins. That was good. And you go, okay, like what else happened? Well, everything can't be a home run, I guess. And that's kind of like what the rest of this show felt like. Apart from those big sort of tentpole things, it was like, oh, the rest was just kind of there. And for me, yeah, this is where the show started to go downhill a little bit, because I looked at this match and sort of said, well, the story that you told just doesn't make any sense with the finish. It was almost like we can do a finish that fits the story, or we can do a finish that gets more headlines and we'll get some mainstream press and some sports press because some NFL players got involved. And they went, well, let's go with the latter then. Let's get people talking. So yeah, I didn't enjoy the match as how I thought I would enjoy the match, put it that way. And speaking of which, this for me, I think was the biggest. First of all, Lil Wayne, I can't say performed, I can't say rapped. Lil Wayne came out and mumbled for a bit on stage with a very shitty microphone. Came to the ring with Jey Uso, then started to sort of... the whole thing with Jey Uso at the moment is yeet and that with the crowd. And then even Lil Wayne kind of messed that up and made it a bit annoying. And to top it off, the ring announcer says the greatest rapper of all time. As someone, again, I'm not completely dialed in with sort of the niche rapping people, but I can safely say that Lil Wayne is not the greatest rapper of all time. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing something with that one, but I can say for pretty much certainty he's not the greatest of all time. Don't the conversations usually surround Eminem, Notorious B.I.G., Tupac? Like, isn't it them? But the greatest rapper, Jay-Z, there you go, Red Devils, like those kind of names. I mean, obviously he's a big name, but I don't think I've ever heard that phrase about him. But it's wrestling at the same time, you know. Andre the Giant was the 8th wonder of the world. So, and China was the 9th wonder of the world. So, and they weren't legitimate wonders. you know what I'm saying? So, park that to one side. They had a great build. Well, actually, I say that. They've had a very extensive build, haven't they? This has been a story that's been told and built for ages. And particularly since Jimmy turned on Jey at SummerSlam last year, August last year, that they've been building this, and Jey goes away, becomes babyface on Raw. Jimmy aligns once again with the Bloodline on SmackDown and cost Jey a couple of times and all that kind of shit. And it builds this match, and I've got to be honest, it just wasn't good. It just was not good, this match, for me anyway. I mean, the crowd not being involved that much didn't help it. The crowd being, at this point, really tired. Really sit on your hands, not buy into anything. They liked, yeet. So whenever Jade did the punches, and they did a thing where they were doing back and forth punches, and it was yeet and no yeet. But it was just not good. Like, it was just not good. And they tried to do what we've seen in some Roman Reigns matches in the past, which is this sort of very over-the-top, like, acting moments and try and turn it into a bit of a soap opera. And the sort of soap opera moment in this, and it felt very Michael Hayes. I wouldn't be shocked if Michael Hayes was involved in producing this. But it was like Jimmy going, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I apologize, and puts his hand out, and Jey, because he's not a bad guy anymore, he's a babyface. So you babyface, you're an idiot. You go, okay, and grabs the hand, shakes the hand, and of course Jimmy's like, sucker, hits him, goes for a splash. And then they did a thing where, I mean, I know the Usos, they're known for their super kicks, but this was, let's do a load of super kicks, and let's just not sell them. Let's just not sell them. Let's just not sell the super kicks. Let's just do that. And eventually, Jey hits a spear. He gets the win. And it was just flat. And it was one of those ones where you go, that was, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Like 8 months. That was 8 months of storytelling for that. That was the 8 month, right? We've done it. We've built this thing. And even before the heel turn, all the years we've been together. But bear in mind, this is their dream match. The dream match is to face off against each other at WrestleMania. And that's what they delivered. A very cold match that maybe if they had a hotter crowd that was more into it, then perhaps they would have brought in a bit that. Oh, and also maybe the biggest sort of like distracting thing is this match was sponsored by ass wipes. What were they called? Dude wipes, I think. But I couldn't get that, and they were like, and this thing kept popping up in the corner of the screen. Dude wipes, cleanliness, pants down. And I was like, you're literally, talk about an apt sponsorship for this as well. This match is shit. Here's an ass wipe. To the point where they went, we've got this really good match. We've got these things lined up. It's going to be great. I know the crowd's a bit quiet at the moment, but we're going to get them. They're going to get them. They went, actually, this match is sponsored by something that you probably sort of clean up sort of feces with. So you've got to take sort of the wrestling equivalent of the shit in a ring and then kind of clean it up. And then we can go with the sponsors. Well, this is, you would clean yourself up with this, with this product, this dude wipe product. So that you've got to make the match that in the middle of the ring. But really? I don't think that's going to play very well to the crowd. I think it's going to make the crowd more quiet. And I think, for all of this, for all of this sort of story we've built into it, I don't think the conclusion many people is expecting is sort of defecation in the middle of the ring. I don't think that's the route we should be going down this place, really. And no, it's a sponsorship thing. And credit to TKO in the sense of they'll take money. They don't care. Like, they'll have Prime's in the middle of the ring. There was the Prime hydration station, which they mentioned several times. Standard Delivery earlier today. There was matches that were sponsored by Fallout and Knuckles. I even noticed it across, like, the show earlier on was on Peacock. They had a show that was from Paramount Plus, one from Amazon Prime. I was actually impressed. I thought, how many different streaming services are they going to plug in this show? Then you've got vodka. They got vodka on the show. And to the point that they go, if you have too much of the vodka and it gets a bit messy for you, clean it up with some dude wipes. So it's very strategic. It's sort of different points of the evening. I think maybe it was like, here's some food, here's some vodka, and then if it gets too much, then get your wipes in. The only thing I was expecting next was if you need to get to sleep or wake yourself up in the morning. I thought that could have been the next step. That was about it. I thought that in terms of sponsorships, what was going. Oh, maybe Prime as well. They were like, Prime, then you might throw up. So you might need your dude wipes after that. But that was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. So that was that match. For me, I just looked at it as, I thought it was quite really disappointing. I don't know what I expected from it, but I didn't expect that, realistically. Next, we had the 6-woman tag team match, which was Damage Control facing off against Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, Naomi. As you would expect, the baby faces won, and the whole match was really built around getting Jade Cargill to have the hot tag. And this was another one where, what did I expect? I didn't expect it to be a classic. There you go. There's Michael Cole's hat. That was, again, big pop. And Corey goes with his gloves. Like I said, at this point in the show, I thought, hey, that's not bad going. They had a cool entrance with Jade looking like Storm, and Bianca was, I think, Cyclops from X-Men. And then, interestingly, very off the X-Men theme, Naomi was someone from Mortal Kombat. So I don't know if she got the notice. We're doing an X-Men thing. Well, I'm going to be from Mortal Kombat, so tough shit. And yeah, the match kind of built to Jade getting the tag, and eventually Jade comes in, cleans house, hits Jaded, gets the win. I would like to see, I think it's very, very clear they are protecting her. They are protecting her, as best as they can. You saw that in the Rumble, where in the Rumble, she came in, she did her spots, lift up Nia Jax, couple of face-offs, do some power moves, got thrown out towards the end. This was very much the same in this one here. Majority of the match on the outside of the ring, hot tag, go after people, power moves, couple of sort of press slams, couple of, she did a back body drop, hits Jaded on Dakota Kai, gets the win, does her pose. But you would say, if their concern with her when they signed her was, right, she's been on AEW television for this long, but we don't think that she can work very well. We're concerned about her ability to work. We think she needs more time at the Performance Center. And bear in mind, she signed in September, was it? I think it was like September she signed. Once again, September, October, November, January, February, March, April. 7 months of extra work. I don't see a huge difference in Jade Cargill's in-ring quality between now and when she worked in AEW and was the TBS champion. In fact, I don't see any difference, realistically. Like, I didn't watch this match and go, yeah, Jade's really different. Like, she's really improved. I can see she's really fixed these things. If anything, actually early on, when she first came in and did her spots, I thought she looked a bit lost. She did a back body drop, was a bit of a sort of not flat fall for Dakota Kai, and I thought, I don't know about that. And maybe that you put that down 2 nerves, and you go, maybe it's just a bit, concerning. But they're trying to protect her. I think they're trying to protect her. They're trying to position her where she doesn't get exposed. But eventually, as they always say, you can look great, but eventually the bell rings, and you got to do something. And the match was largely carried from the babyface point of view by Bianca Belair and Naomi. So where she goes next, I don't know. I think probably more. I wouldn't honestly be shocked if she does more tag matches with Bianca, and they build eventually to like a singles match between those two, but quite far in the future. Maybe at like next year's WrestleMania. Maybe they take that time, because I think the best thing for her right now would be not to expose it, would to have her do limited matches, keep trying to work on the in-ring, but eventually you got to see some sign of improvement, I think. So I thought this match was about showcasing Jade, and she looked okay, but I don't think it was anything super to write home about, to be honest with you. We are 17 likes away, by the way, from 100 likes. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner as well. We're 12 likes away from 17,200. Now on to the final 2 matches of the evening. First, the Intercontinental Championship, and it's over. It's over. The historic Intercontinental Championship reign of Gunther, is gone. And I was honestly really shocked by the outcome of this one. And I suppose in retrospect, I shouldn't be. Because when you look at this, what they were doing before the match, they had Sami Zayn talking with his wife, with his kid. Kevin Owens was there, going, I believe in you, slapped him in the face, said, go out there and do it. They really sort of stacked the deck for him not to lose. Because if he had, he'd have looked like the biggest fool. So I suppose in that sense, he kind of had to win. But I really did think that it was going to be Chad Gable. I thought that with the story that they told on Raw last year, and with Chad Gable training Sammy, I thought eventually it would lead to like Gable being the one to end Gunther's reign. But I suppose that with Sammy, and this is a really interesting one with him, isn't it? Because there was a point, and I suppose people forget this because so much has happened in 12 months, but there was a point with him that, he was like one of the hottest baby faces in the company in 2022, 2023, because of his stuff with the bloodline. He was red hot, right? Red hot. Selling merch, doing ratings, involved in the hottest angle on the show. And then he had the big match with Roman Reigns in Montreal. Didn't win. And then obviously he had the WrestleMania main event with Kevin Owens last year and beat the Usos, and that was great. And then really quickly just got like ice cold and just sort of forgotten about. And like the Usos carried on in their story because they were still involved with the bloodline, but Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were just kind of there and nothing really happened. And to the point that sort of around late last year, you started to look at Sami, didn't you, and go, you kind of forget that had all happened to him. He just felt like he was back where he was prior to doing all of the stuff with the bloodline. He was just a mid-card guy that had a bit of a peak, but he was back down to where he was before. So maybe this is WWE looking at it going, we still think we can get him back to that level. There's equity there with him. So if we have him have this big thing, this big WrestleMania moment, I suppose maybe they're looking for that kind of Daniel Bryan-esque underdog babyface, which is not what Cody Rhodes is. Cody Rhodes is more of a John Cena, that kind of, he never loses, he never gives up, but he's strong morals, like that kind of thing. And maybe they want Sami Zayn to be more of the Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson babyface of, he loses quite a lot, but they like him, they rally behind him, they believe in him. He's always the underdog. He might not always win, but eventually he does, and he gets his big moment. And he can beat the monster occasionally, which is what happened today. He hit... the finish kind of was a bit funny. For the majority of the match, Gunther beat the piss out of him and then just started screaming at Sami Zayn's wife. It's not apparently good to be a woman in the front row in this particular part of the crowd if you're at WrestleMania, because Sami Zayn's wife was very near to where Cody Rhodes' mother was sitting, and they just got screamed at all night by the people wrestling in the matches, which is kind of hilarious. But nevertheless, Sami Zayn's got the hell beat out of him and got splashed, powerbombed, clothesline, blah, blah, blah. And then it was kind of hilarious because he turns into Hulk Hogan. He Sammied up. He just Sammied up. He just went, no. He started like flopping around on the floor. No. Goes up to the turnbuckle, brainbuster on Gunther, haluva kick, and then he pins him. And I think probably in the long run, it's good for Gunther. He should be in the main event picture. He should be in the main event scene. If Drew McIntyre doesn't beat Seth Rollins tomorrow at WrestleMania, which I think he does, but if he doesn't, then Gunther should be the one to challenge for the title. I think Gunther, by the time Bash in Berlin comes around, one would think Gunther will be working in the main event of that show, competing for and hopefully winning a world championship. That is kind of where it feels like this is going, doesn't it? I know at the moment he's actually landlocked. He can't leave the US because he's as part of the rules for his green card. So I think that this is the beginning of Gunther. Ironically enough, this is probably the beginning of Gunther winning the world championship, most likely, isn't it? Is you drop the belt here, and then you move on and to the world championship. So I think that's what was the case here. But I was a bit surprised that it was Sami. I thought that there could be a possibility that that they waited for Chad Gable to do it. Or I thought they could do a thing where he holds the title until Bash in Berlin, and they do like an Ultimate Warrior Hulk Hogan thing, title versus title, and winner take all. And then if Gunther wins, then he just relinquishes the IC title a bit like Warrior did. But nope, they decided to put over Sami Zayn in the process, and Sami Zayn is the new Intercontinental Champion. And finally, we got our main event. We got the tag team match, what they described as the biggest tag team match of all time. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns and The Rock. Of course, if Rhodes and Rollins won, there would be no interference, no bloodline involved in Night 2's main event between Rhodes and Reigns for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. But if the bloodline won, then tomorrow night it will be bloodline rules. And that's exactly what it's going to be. Because as we spoke about earlier on, The Rock pinned Cody Rhodes in the middle of the ring, meaning that tomorrow it will be bloodline rules. Now, as far as this one goes, it was curious because I think, in fairness, my assessment of it would be they pulled it off. I think they pulled it off. For, let's say, 90% of the match, I didn't think they were going to pull it off. I thought, what are they doing here? They are conserving energy. They are saving themselves for tomorrow. What are they doing? And in the last 10, this, I think, to be fair, was a masterclass of, we've got a 40-minute match. let's tell the story in the final 5. But let's stretch. Let's stretch this one out. And they did that. My goodness me, for the first 5 minutes, they didn't touch each other. They stared off, maybe did a couple of collar and elbow tie-ups, go in the corner. I want to say I don't know how long the match went on for. Maybe there's some times that are already on Wikipedia. Maybe they've put that in. Let's have a look. The match went 44 minutes, okay? 44. And I'm telling you, first 5, they didn't touch. But it went 44 minutes, the main event. I want to say The Rock didn't take a proper bump until, shall we say, the final 10 minutes? I mean, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm not exaggerating. I want to say The Rock didn't take an actual bump until the final sort of 10 minutes, maybe. And The Rock, he's the final boss. He's the heel. That's what he's doing now. And he's kind of what he's got, which is smart now. But I don't know if he could have a proper, like, by referee singles match, with disqualifications and countouts. I don't know if he can have that now. So how do you overcome that? Well, I'm on the board of directors. I've got power. So I just say to the referee, if I want to go outside the ring, don't effing count me out or you're fired. And they went, okay. So that's what happens. And he went, you can't disqualify me or you're fired. So he just kicks him in the balls. And he already uses the weight belt. And to be fair, that's smart. Like, that kind of worked. That kind of worked. And there was a lot of it. There was a lot of smoke and mirrors, it felt like, I think that's fair to say. A lot of smoke and mirrors and being careful that the Rock didn't gas himself up too much. And there was, again, not a lot of a lot of bumps taken early on. It was a lot of punches, a lot of work into the crowd, a lot of posturing. It was really Rollins that took a lot of the abuse in this one, and for his tag team, it was mainly Reigns doing a lot of the work, and then The Rock would come in and do a collar and elbow tie, maybe throw some punches, couple of kicks, and get back out the ring and what have you. He didn't deliver the weight belt to Mama Rhodes. He did confront her a couple of times, but he didn't deliver the weight belt with the blood on, so maybe that will come tomorrow, I think. But Mama Rhodes was there. Anyway, the finish we get. It looks like Cody Rhodes is going to pin Roman Reigns. He tries to do what he did last year. 3 crossroads, does the 2. He's just about to hit the 3rd, and he gets stopped. What happens? The Rock, bang, whips him with the weight belt. That allows Roman Reigns to hit the spear on him. Then in comes the Rock bottom. Then he hits the people's elbow. 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. The Rock pins Cody Rhodes. And that means tomorrow we have Bloodline rules, which, as I spoke about early on, it's the right call, isn't it? It's the right call. It's Infinity War. If Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins won tonight, and they said, right, Bloodline, you're out tomorrow. What's more exciting? Put it that way. What leads to more questions? It's a 2-night event, so you've got to have a sequel tomorrow. What sequels are exciting? When the good guys win and there's no cliffhanger, or when the good guys lose and there's a cliffhanger to go into the next night. It's a cliffhanger. How do you make people tune in? How do you get people excited? How do you get people talking? Good guys lost, definitively. They lost to the people with more power, with more influence. So that was the right call. I think it means that Cody Rhodes wins tomorrow. Because if it doesn't, then that's when you go, you've really hurt your top babyface because you made him lose twice. I don't think The Rock turns on Roman Reigns. Even though he got speared tonight and maybe they're like, see, that means he's going to get, they're going to turn on him. Only if Reigns loses, then I think maybe The Rock might still stay heel and attack Roman and write him off television or something. I think The Rock pinning Cody sets up Rock and Cody in the future. So they can revisit that either later this year or at WrestleMania next year, depending on which direction they want to go in. And I think The Rock's got a couple of matches coming out of it. I think he's got Rock versus Roman, and I think he's got Rock versus Cody. And they can either do one later on this year, or they can wait till WrestleMania next year. Remember, WrestleMania next year is going to be bigger. I think people forget this too. This year, of course, WrestleMania, it's the biggest WrestleMania of all time. It's the biggest WrestleMania of all time until next year. The reason why is because this year, you can watch it on Peacock in the US, or you can watch it on WWE Network internationally. Next year, you can watch it on Peacock in the US, or you can watch it on Netflix internationally. Think of how many people potentially can tune in at WrestleMania to WrestleMania next year. So you want to have a bigger main event than the one you've got this year. And there's an argument to be made that the bigger main event next year is either The Rock versus Roman Reigns or The Rock versus Cody Rhodes. And I think they've set that up with regardless of what happens tomorrow. And I think what happens tomorrow is, I said, I think tonight was Infinity War, and I think tomorrow's Endgame. And what I mean by that is it looks like Cody Rhodes is down, he's out for the count with all of the bloodline surrounding him, and he gets support, he gets help. Someone helps him, or some people rather help him. And it would be people that have been wronged by Roman Reigns and The Rock in the past. So that would be John Cena. That would be Stone Cold Steve Austin in the case of The Rock. That would be maybe Triple H. That would be obviously Seth Rollins. That would be whoever you can think of. Get them all there. Jey Uso may be involved in it. Get them brawling and get to a finish that, they said it's going to be the start of a new era. Now, is their start of a new era Sami Zayn winning the Intercontinental Championship and a new Signature Open? Because that's all we've got thus far. Or is the start of a new era a brand new champion and setting up the future with possible matches with The Rock and Cody and The Rock and Roman in the future? I tend to think the latter, to be honest with you. So that's kind of where I think it's going. A reminder though, guys, we will be live tomorrow for the Night 2 watch along. You'll actually, hopefully, I don't know how the redirect on YouTube is weird, by the way, because sometimes it sends you straight there. Sometimes it just goes, oh, you can go to this video. But this video should send you to tomorrow night's watch along. And you can set a reminder, or you can click the like button early and what have you. And then same thing, we'll be doing a post-show once the show goes off the air as well. So I appreciate everyone that's tuned in. Amazing night on the watch-along, amazing night on the post-show. Really appreciate everyone that's supporting the channel. Really appreciate everyone that's getting involved. I've now got to try and get some sleep for like 4 hours or so. And then get ready for Manchester United versus Liverpool for my sins as well. And then get ready once again for WrestleMania Night 2. This is why we do what we do, for all of your support, and I hope you guys really enjoy it, because I know I certainly do. Anyway, guys, I'm out of here. Hope you enjoyed WrestleMania Night 1, and we'll be back tomorrow for more of WrestleMania 40.